thank you for that question. The question was, I'll repeat it for folks, that she has voted Republican. She's been an independent, but she voted Republican the last time, and she's been disappointed with her vote. She said, how do I know that you're not just like all the rest, that you won't follow through in what you're saying? That's a paraphrase. Well, let me ask you, anyone else here disappointed with Republican leadership in Washington? I've said many, many times, I think the biggest political divide we've got in this country is not between Republicans and Democrats. The biggest political divide we have in this country is between career politicians in Washington in both parties and the American people. And then your question, I think in many ways is the most important question of the whole day. I think the Republican primary is going to come down to one word: trust. We're tired of politicians lying to us. And the stakes are too high. Let me share with you an answer I gave a number of weeks back when I was at a lunch with some folks, and they asked me exactly that question. How can we trust you? We've been burned over and over again. And I'll tell you what I told that gentleman. I said, you know what? You shouldn't trust them. Don't trust any politician. What you should do instead is say, show me. Don't tell me, show me. I had a former boss who used to say, if I'm ever accused of being a Christian, I'd like there to be enough evidence to convict me. The same is true of being a conservative. If you're really a conservative, you shouldn't have to tell anybody. Because you will have been in the foxholes, you will bear the wounds of standing for your principle. And if you haven't taken any shots, you haven't done anything. And let me give you a specific example. So when I was campaigning for Senate across the state of Texas, people asked the same question: why should you trust me? And I said, you know, every politician always has an issues page on their website, A, B, C, D, and E. And if you print out 5 or 10 Republican politicians, their issues pages, they say word for word the exact same thing. It's like they're reading from a script. Now, I pointed out on the campaign trail that if you go to our webpage, tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org. Yeah, it's tedcruz.org. One of the first things people noticed is we didn't have an issues page. Instead, we had a page that was labeled a proven record. What it said was, for far too long, politicians have said one thing and done another. Every one of us should ask any candidate who shows up in front of us, you say you believe these principles. Great. Show me. When have you stood up and fought for them? When have you bled for them? And what have you accomplished? As the scriptures say, you shall know them by their fruits. And what it then said is, for the past decade, Ted has been fighting for conservative principles over and over again, and winning on a national level. 3 pages of bullet points. And let me give one example of that. The Second Amendment. The state of Texas, if you're running as a Republican, there is a correct answer. I support the Second Amendment. Unless you're clinically insane. I mean, even Democrats in Texas will say they support the Second Amendment. New Hampshire, there's a lot of truth to that here in New Hampshire as well. I actually pointed out, if you went to our website, tedcruz.org, I didn't say I supported the Second Amendment. Didn't say a word about what was hidden in the deep recesses of my heart. What I did say is, as the Solicitor General of Texas, the chief lawyer for the state in front of the United States Supreme Court. I led a coalition of 31 states in defense of the individual right to keep and bear arms, and we won a landmark 5-4 decision upholding that right. And then it linked to the NRA's 2010 Carter Knight Freedom Fund Award that was awarded to me that year as one of the leading defenders of the Second Amendment in the country. That's the difference between talk and a record of standing and fighting for your rights.